Alright, last video of this project, we finally got to take this thing off-roading to see what this thing can do, rock crawling and all that kind of stuff. Now, it handled really well, but there's still a couple things we need to fix in this video, being brakes, a couple things with the engine, and possibly some things with the suspension. Now, first, let me say this. Yes, me and Doug completely forgot to air down these tires for rock crawling. And I actually just measured the PSI in all these tires, and it says that they are at 20 PSI. When on the sidewall, it says that they should be 7 PSI cold. So, yes, we completely forgot to air them down for rock crawling, so they were hard as a rock. But I kind of see that as not a bad thing, because it still went up. Pretty much any hill that I asked it to, it still rock crawled and all that kind of stuff, it still went over rocks. So, even with these tires being hard as rocks. So once I air these things down, I think it'll be a little bit smoother ride. I won't feel every single bump on the road, as well as it should be able to crawl over hills and rocks and all that kind of stuff even better than it did. So now, first thing we need to fix on this is the brakes. Okay, so originally we were using these calipers. These are off of an ATV, and they're designed to only stop like a little 400 or 500 pound ATV, and they obviously didn't work for this vehicle. This vehicle probably weighs almost 1,000 pounds, I'm guessing. I'm not really sure. So I'm going to be replacing these calipers with these. These are off of a Kawasaki Ninja 650, and these are double piston. These are single piston, and these have a lot bigger brake pads on here. So I'm hoping that once I install these on this vehicle, we will actually have some decent brakes. Now, obviously, this is going to be really tricky trying to get this motorcycle caliper to fit on this ATV hub, because obviously they weren't designed to fit with one another. So we're definitely going to have to modify both of these things. Now, I'm going to have to cut this tab off and weld on a new one further down. If I can't weld on cast aluminum, then I'm definitely going to destroy this, trying to get this to work. But if I can weld on this, and I'm very, very confident that I can make this work, I'm really hoping I can weld on this cast aluminum. I've never tried, so I have no idea if I can. I'm also gonna have to weld on new mounts onto here just to relocate these mounting holes, and I'm gonna have to grind some of this stuff off for clearance and all this kind of stuff. So it's definitely gonna be tricky trying to get these to work. But as long as I can weld on this cast aluminum, then I'm fairly confident that I can actually pull this off. Alright, so this is a spare that I have, a spare hub, and I'm going to try to weld a piece of aluminum onto here. Before I cut the tab off of that one and potentially ruin it, I just want to make sure I can weld on cast aluminum. I've never tried before, so we'll see if this works. If it works, then awesome. If it doesn't, then I'll figure out something else. I don't know. Not the best looking weld, but it actually works. And definitely not the prettiest weld ever, but it worked at least. It did weld to it. I think I had a little bit of a problem with heat. I had to turn the amperage up almost to max. Max that the wall outlet will do, and maybe I should have heated up the parts before welding this, but it worked at least. It did weld to it. So let's do the shear test and see where this weld breaks. Alright, let's see how easy it is to break off. Yeah, definitely not a perfect weld, but at least the root of the weld didn't fuse properly, but that was just, I didn't have enough heat on it to get it to fuse properly. but the toes of the weld did fuse properly onto this cast aluminum, which that's a good sign. That means that my amperage just wasn't high enough. Maybe I should heat up the parts before welding, because this is pretty thick cast aluminum, and this does mean that I can weld on these cast aluminum parts. So I just gotta heat it up more and turn up the amperage a lot more. Well, that kind of works, but I roasted the crap out of this thing. I also melted all the bushings. I forgot to pull the bushings out of this thing, and they all melted. So I gotta clean those up, and I probably roached the bearings on this, but I needed new bearings anyways. This thing needed new bushings. Yeah, I definitely can't reuse these. Wow, I only tripped the breaker probably like 6 or 7 times this time, so, but at least I got it done. Got the first one. I got to do the second one. Alright, so I drilled the holes. Now I can cut these things to shape and get rid of all these ugly angles. Alright, check it out. I actually got it to work. I was a little skeptical at first whether or not I could pull this off, but I actually got it to work. Now, unfortunately, not 100% of the brake pad is contacting the brake disc. You can kind of see on this side, there's a lot bigger gap than on this side, and that's just how these calipers are, you know, because of that right there. I had to angle this, you know, a little bit further. These calipers, this thing's heavy. This caliper is not flat. It's definitely, you know, kinked to this side. So you can kind of see somewhere right there where the pads are sticking out, sticking past a little bit the brake disc. But it's still gonna work way better than the old setup, the old ATV calipers. This should work way better. So anyway, let's put this back on the frame, and then I gotta bleed the brakes. So, I went to put the tires on, and I ran into some clearance issues with these calipers. Yeah, these were hitting the rim, so I had to grind these down a lot. This one I had to grind down the most because it sticks out further on the bottom. I also had to grind down the head of the banjo bolt almost to the point where, yeah, I'm not going to be able to take that off. So let's hope I never have to mess with this or have to take this off, because now it's to the point where, yeah, that's on there permanently. Yeah, that's kind of pushing it with some clearance right there. Look at that. That's what, like 1/16 of an inch? Hopefully we don't have any issues, because these tires definitely kind of move around a little bit. They bounce around while I'm driving. Hopefully don't have any issues of the rim contacting any part of the caliper or any part of the banjo bolt, because yeah, that's not that much clearance right there. Alright, it is now time to do the front brakes. Now, something I'm kind of just noticing on this, and I've kind of known that these hubs leak oil because you have to put demand drive fluid in there because of the Hilliard clutch, but I kind of didn't think that maybe the oil is leaking onto the brake discs and getting all over the pads and I'm now noticing that, yeah, there's a ton of oil all over this brake discs. The pads are all soaked in oil, so that probably didn't help with the brakes. And I have known that I definitely need to replace the seals in this, but I got more important stuff I need to fix on this first, and once I kind of paint and finalize this project, I was planning on then I'll replace the seals on these front hubs. Now, we're definitely gonna have to make new discs, because the discs on here are really small, and I don't think I would be able to put the new calipers on here and get it to work with this. Plus, we can fit bigger brake discs on here, so might as well. And probably the easiest thing to do would just be to make them from scratch. So therefore, we can have whatever size we need and make it to where it has the same bolt pattern. Alright, now because these are smaller than brake discs that I've made in the past, I was able to machine these mostly on the lathe, which was nice, but now I have to put these on the mill, so therefore I can machine the slots, or the venting holes that most brake discs have. So I'm using my rotary table, I'm making it to where I drill 6 holes, and then I move over a little bit and down, drill 6 more, and then I move over and down again, 6 more, and that kind of creates a cool pattern. Then I gotta drill the 4 holes for mounting, and then these things are pretty much done. Alright, the brake discs are pretty much done. Now you can see the size difference with these are the old brake discs, and these are the new ones. I made them about 1.25 inches bigger diameter, so we should, I couldn't make them too much bigger because we need to still, have the caliper fit inside the rim of the tires, but we should notice a difference even with this slightly just bigger thickness or whatever. So now ideally I should remove the mill scale on the surface of this metal, but I don't have the proper equipment to do that, and ideally I would need like a surface grinder, or ideally a rotary surface grinder would be perfect, and I don't have that, so we're just gonna leave the mill scale on. The brake pads over time should wear away the mill scale and it should come off, so it'll still work. So anyway, let's start reassembling this stuff and put these back on the spindles. Alright, that wasn't that hard. We got the calipers now mounted onto the front spindles. They work. I did make sure that the tires do fit on here and clear all of this, and they do. It does clear it, which is nice. So now, all I need to do next is take the brake lines off of the old calipers, put them on the new calipers, and then I gotta re-bleed the brakes again. I'm not gonna just bother showing bleeding the brakes because it's boring and it takes forever. These are a bit noisy. What's making noise? They work. They're a bit noisy, I'll admit, but the engine's louder, so you're not really going to be able to hear that as much, hopefully. Alright, so I'm just curious if we're going to be able to tell if the brakes are better, so I'm just going to drive it up, roll it back, and slam on the brakes. We'll see how fast it stops. It actually works! Oh, the brakes actually work. They finally work now. Alright, the brakes finally work on this vehicle. They actually function as brakes and are able to stop this vehicle, which is awesome. So, that was one of 3 things I wanted to fix on this thing, because every time I take it off-roading, it kind of shows like things I need to fix, and the first one was brakes. We fixed that. The second one was I really need to wrap this header pipe in the heat wrap stuff, whatever it's called, because it gets really hot and your foot's right next to it, so your foot gets really hot, and I really want to. It's obviously not going to fix the issue, but it's going to hopefully improve it by wrapping it in that header wrap. It's not tape, it's the fiberglassy kind of stuff. Hopefully it'll kind of fix that issue. So the third thing is suspension. I know I need to tune these shocks. I have no idea how to tune these things. I have been trying to I'm doing research on how to tune these things. Can't find a single thing on how to tune these type of Fox air shocks. Anytime I Google or look at the Fox website on how to tune Fox air shocks, all that pulls up is mountain biking air shocks. So I can't find any information on how to tune these things. The front suspension works good because most of the weight is in the front. It's the rear suspension where I'm sitting is where you feel every bump, you feel every rock, and you really get jostled around and tossed around in this thing. So need to tune these. If you guys know how to tune these things, please let me know. It's either the amount of oil you put in these shocks, or the density of oil, or the valving. I've tried looking up how to change the valving on these, couldn't find any information. So maybe that's not the issue. I did drain some oil out of these shocks and it improved it so much better with the dampening is the issue. It's not simply just put more air into it, because every time I do that it just sits up higher. The issue is dampening in these shocks. It's just way too much dampening. These are designed for like a 1,500 to 2,000 pound vehicle, and this thing maybe weighs like 800 pounds. So then most of that weight, like 60 or 70% of that weight is in the front. So the back end of this thing is just lightweight, so you get, yeah. I need to tune these things. If you guys know how to do that, please let me know, because I just can't find any information on how to do that. So anyway, next video of this project, we get to take this thing off-roading and test it again and see what else needs to be fixed and see what else needs to be improved. And if there's nothing to improve, then it's time to paint and finalize this project. But that'll have to be for the next couple videos of this project. But for now, I gotta end this video here. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.